it going, Summoners? And welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. After buffing and nerfing a few champs, the meta is slowly progressing to a new level. My name is Tia, and today we're going to take a look at those OP picks for the current patch. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's start off the list with a champion that is a bane for every enchanter support. Lux has been slowly rising in popularity thanks to her insane shield value throughout the game. She combines poke, setup, and survivability into one champion and can pretty much solo carry team fights with that power. On level 1, she can shield the entire team from 150 damage each. That's roughly a fourth of a champion's HP pool at that time. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nuts is that? More than that though, she's also able to poke out the enemy from her annoying Lucent Singularity on a regular basis. You'll find it very hard or near impossible to dodge if she places it correctly. Consequently, it's just a matter of time until you deplete your HP bar and are forced to recall. Now, taking into account that she's also able to root you from a very high distance makes it very obnoxious to play against her. In lane, Lux wants to be oppressive. She wants to bully the enemy laners and show them why she's so strong. To achieve that, she can hide in bushes and wait for the perfect opportunity to shoot out her light binding. If it hits and she's in a position where she's allowed to proc her passive, the enemy will surely lose a lot of HP. In a normal trade in lane, she can weave in an auto attack between the detonation of her two basic abilities to increase her damage even more. Another neat trick for Lux is combining her third and ultimate ability. Normally, only auto attacks would ignite her passive illumination, but her ultimate ability ignites it as well. With that extra damage, you can surely be the difference in a fight. More than that though, you should not forget about the value of your shields in the later stages of the game. Leveling that spell up first will grant your team extreme power in the early dragon fights, and adding an early enchantment to that will make your champion broken. However, you shouldn't forget that you are a squishy little mage support, therefore your positioning is equally important as your accuracy with those skill shots. Being caught out isolated every so often will brutally diminish your impact on games, and that would be kind of suboptimal. Mostly, you'll position yourself in a way where you're able to either shield your entire team or make a pick yourself with that light binding. Go give Lux Support a try and you won't regret it. Before we continue with today's video, make sure to check out our Discord in the description below. We're always happy to see new faces on there, and we got a variety of things perfectly suited for any type of player. Discussions about builds, looking for duo queue partners, or just hanging out and joining a community, we got you covered, and all you have to do is click that link. Evelynn has been an OP pick for a long time now, and even though Riot is nerfing her, it won't be enough to remove the queen from the throne in the jungle. Her clear is excellent, and experienced players have come up with a solution if you're forced to start red buff on her. You can simply pick up regeneration and runes, and with that, you'll not run out of mana as you'd normally do. With that in mind, clearing your jungle becomes even easier. Now, Riot has put Evelynn on the nerf radar, but simply increasing her ultimate's cooldown won't be enough. Her true strength comes from her first ability, its range, and its cooldown. With that, Evelynn has an easy time dealing damage to champions that are far away from her without putting herself in a sketchy position. Evelynn as a champion is a heavily scaling AP assassin that wants to avoid very early confrontation. Ideally, she clears her jungle, takes the uncontested scuttle, and transitions to an enemy camp to hit level 5. After hitting level 5, it's almost common courtesy to dive the closest enemy laner. Quickly check though if the wave is in a state that allows you to dive. If so, you can just cast your second ability on the enemy's head and walk up to him. Now, it's just a matter of time until he gets charmed. Don't grow impatient though, he's going to die. Make sure that you're the one that starts tanking the tower after you successfully charm the enemy. Thanks to your ultimate ability, you have a foolproof way to escape and execute the enemy laner under his own tower. Once you rack up a few kills, you can start your rampage on the Wild Rift. The ability to move around in stealth grants you global pressure. Everybody has to respect you if they haven't spotted you for a while. The problem I've found though is the fact that most Evelynn players are not playing around her stealth very well. You can just sit in a lane and wait for the enemy to make a mistake. You won't miss out on a lot since jungle camps don't grant too much in terms of resources. Be creative and be very sneaky. Deceive the enemy and capitalize on their lack of information to snowball your games into victories. Okay guys, let's take a short break to take a look at our question of the day. If you had the chance to remove your most hated champ from Wild Rift, who would it be and why? Curious about that one, so let us know in the comments below. I really do read them and I enjoy reading what you guys have to say. Before I jump into the details, Akali is still an insane pick for the middle and Baron lane. Her ability to chase you down is frightening, and her impact on team fights is just absurd. Have you ever met an Akali level 1 in melee range? No? Good for you, because if that happened, you'd be in your fountain soon after. There are multiple reasons why Akali is scary throughout the entirety of the game. If you're too close in the early game, you'll be hit with her first ability and chased down thanks to the passive. Every single time Akali hits an enemy with an ability, she spawns a circle. Running towards the ring grants her 50% bonus movement speed, and once she crosses it while running towards an enemy champion, this bonus is extended for another 2 seconds. More than that, her next auto attack is also empowered to deal more damage and refund a small amount of energy. If she can successfully proc her passive twice, she can throw out another 5-point strike. If you do the math, that amounts to quite a lot of damage early on and becomes a life-threatening risk when paired with an ignite. As the game goes on, Akali becomes significantly harder to deal with. More gap closers and an ability that grants invisibility, allowing you to strike fear into the enemy carries. Putting down your shroud creates pressure on the enemy team. Any carry that goes too close risks being one-shot. But for you, it's just a game of patience. Look at the positioning of the enemy champions and think about your upcoming play. What can stop you? What enchantments do they have? And how can you get out? Don't just go with the flow. You've got plenty of time to come up with a plan. Ideally, you think of potential threats before a fight. For that, you check out the scoreboard and look for enemy enchantments and items. Can you really afford not to? Don't forget, if you're going in without paying too much attention to the enemy setup, you might die soon after and your team then would be one member down. When that happens, your fate is in the hands of your teammates, and from experience, is that a good thing? Let me tell you, most of the time it is not. In lane, you want to bully people. Melee characters can be dominant level 1 onwards unless you make a mistake. Against ranged champions, you normally need level 5 to close the gap between you in a reliable fashion. For the late game, your goal will consist of deleting enemy carries from the game. Trust me, you'll have enough damage to do so at nearly every point of the game after hitting level 5. For the ADC position, we have seen an interesting buff to an already strong champion. Xayah received buffs that make her an even better champ now. Decreased cooldown on her second ability and an increased root duration of Blade Collar make it even harder to play against a good Xayah. Remember, her entire kit is based around feathers and zone control, so by directly buffing the root duration, her entire identity becomes even better. In lane, you're quite an annoying champion as you're able to poke enemies while last hitting thanks to your feathers. Leaving those feathers behind also force enemies to move in a predictable way, which is helpful for your support in lane. If they, however, choose to remain in front of a lot of your feathers, they'll be hit with a reality check and lose their entire HP bar. Combining this power with your attack speed steroid forces a lot of champions to run away from you. More importantly though is how reliant you are on your third ability. Using it and still playing aggressively can quickly lead to you dying to the enemy if they pay attention to your usage of cooldowns. With that said, you need to learn to play around your cooldowns if you want to play Xayah. Having your Featherstorm available allows you to engage in very reckless plays. Normally, you'd see ADCs in the backline. They're trying to survive while dealing consistent DPS. Nevertheless, it's important for your growth as a player to realize what you're allowed and what you're not allowed to do. Do you think it'd be a good idea to commit all spells on a Xayah that still has her ultimate available? I think we can all agree it is not a good idea. But in the heat of the moment, players tend to forget about that. They'll jump her with all their cooldowns and be surprised by the fact that she can just void all of their damage and spells alike. In addition to that, laying down those feathers stops the enemy from following their teammates. Why? That's right, you already know the answer. Her feathers enforce specific movements. Consequently, picking her into champions that want to engage into your team seems optimal. Prolonged fights that involve kiting backwards are her most loved type of fights. Besides that, you're also able to push forward. There's a neat trick you can use to fast root an enemy while you're chasing them. By using your first ability and an auto attack into an instant Blade Collar, you'll see that the enemy in front of you will be rooted if you're fast enough. To increase the chances of that working out, you can also use your second ability for the attack speed and movement speed bonus. Give Xayah a try and let us know how it went. She's a very unique champion with a special design that's super fun to play if you're used to it. Last but not least comes a little surprise. Rather than showing you that Xayah is still a pretty good champion, we have a special treat for you. This is a prediction and a courtesy of Riot Games. Varus has been buffed, and let me tell you guys, he deals damage. However, you won't be going AD, you'll be building AP. Your core items are Nashor's Tooth and Rabadon's Death Cap. With your insane AP scaling on your abilities, you'll become a one-shot god. Every single time your ultimate ability is available, you're going to kill someone. Trust me, the moment your chain of corruption connects is the moment the enemy will be stuck respawning in his fountain. For this build, you have to get used to the way it's played. Activating your second ability doubles its on-hit damage for 6 seconds and grants your piercing arrow bonus magic damage based on a percentage of the enemy's missing HP. So your goal will consist of applying your blight stacks to the enemy and then proccing all 3 of them with your enhanced piercing arrow to deal a lot of damage. Another neat thing about catching an enemy with your chain of corruption is the fact that you instantly apply 3 stacks of corruption to them. As your enhanced piercing arrow deals bonus damage based on how low the enemy is, it can definitely be worthwhile to detonate the stacks early with another ability. Afterwards, you can still activate your second ability to attack again and gain even more damage on your piercing arrow thanks to the damage you've already inflicted. Similar to Xayah, Varus grants zone control as his ultimate spreads to other targets in close proximity. More than that, his burst damage is obscene and his DPS on objectives is higher than you might think. Chain buffing Varus was definitely an interesting choice, and we're curious to see how that champion is going to perform. If you're interested in such an exotic yet most likely OP pick, give it a try and let us know how you liked it. That concludes today's video on the OP picks for the current patch. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like the content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an upload ever again. Don't forget our question of the day in the comments down below, and with that said, see you in Discord because I actually do pop in there. I don't know if you saw, but I hopped in at 12 a.m. and I said hello and then I left. Okay, but have a good one, bye!